I have been inspired by my assistant rabbi back in Boca Raton Synagogue, Rabbi Philip Moskowitz, who does 3 ideas in 30 minutes. But we are not going to be doing it in 30 minutes. We'll be doing it in a little bit less. We'll be doing 3 ideas on the Parsha to be able to get ourselves into the mood of Shabbos. It is a Parsha that is jam-packed, even though people say it's very hard to find different Torah. At the end of the day, we do have a lot of incredible ideas that come out of this week's Parsha. We are not necessarily going to be going through all the sources inside, but I printed out all the sources in case you want to look at it later, if you want to be able to give it over to other people with the sources, but we're not necessarily going to be going through each idea inside. So idea number 1, we see right off the bat that it says Vayakhel Moshe called Bnei Israel, that Moshe Rabbeinu gathered the Jewish people, and Hashem told him to go and give over this commandment. What's the commandment? It's the commandment of Shabbos. That for 6 days you're going to be working. You're going to be working in the Mishkan. You're going to be doing your thing. On the 7th day, you're going to rest. You're going to turn it into a day of Kodesh, of holiness. And you're going to be resting just like Hashem did. Doesn't say necessarily like that here, but just like Hashem did on the 7th day of the world, He rested after 6 days of creation, of creating the world. He rested. So too for us, we are also going to be resting. And it goes on to give us one of the malachot, one of the 39 malachot, very clearly. Don't start a fire. Don't extinguish a fire and so on. But that's not the part that we're going to be concentrating on. The part we're going to be concentrating on is from the Be'er Yosef. The Be'er Yosef says that it's a little bit unusual. This is the one Parsha where we begin with the word Vayakhel, that we begin with the word that we gathered together. And to say that we haven't gathered every single time that Moshe gave over the halachot, the different laws that we had to do, that we're going to have to keep for generation upon generation, you're telling me that we didn't go and gather? We didn't go and come together and learn in a shir and whatever it might be? Why is it all of a sudden that we are going to be saying that, we gathered together here? It's a little bit interesting, it's a little bit unusual, and there has to be some level of an answer for that. So the Be'er Yosef gives that answer. He says, it's about, on the second line in the middle, it says, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aseh Laka Ki'ilu Gedolo, V'dorsh Lifnei B'Hilchot Shabbos, that Hashem is basically telling us here that we should gather together in big groups to be able to go and learn Hilchot Shabbos, the laws of Shabbos. Kadesh Yilmedu Doros Habayim Lehakil B'Chol Shabbat V'Shabbos. That what should we be doing? For generation upon generation, we should be gathering together every single Shabbos. V'likanis B'Bati Midrashos, Lilmodu Lahoros L'Yisrael Divrei Torah Iser V'Heter. And we should be entering into the base measures. We should be entering into our shuls, our kihilo, and we should be learning together the halachot, the Torah of what is allowed and what is forbidden, also known as halakha. So there are some shuls that are very makpid, they are very stringent, or whatever you want to call it, that on Shabbos they would go on their afternoon shirs to be able to learn halakha, and some are even more careful to be able to learn Hilchot Shabbos. Here, what do we do, especially in the spring? We learn Pirkei Avos with Richie. And how incredible would it be if we come together, if we gather together in the afternoons, especially in those long Shabboses that we have, to come together 45 minutes before Mincha, to be able to learn together Pirkei Avos, just like we're doing right now, learning together. To be able to go and learn the ways of our Avos, to be able to appreciate all the different things that we need to live by. And I think we could even take this a little bit further. It says, when in that second pasuk, it says, Yamim Tasem Malacho B'Yom HaShvi'i Yihi Lachem Kodesh. That should be for you Kodesh. That should be for you holy. What makes it holy? What makes it for you holy? It is the Kehillah. It is the gathering. It is when we gather together, just like Moshe did with the Jewish people at that time, to go and learn Torah. That is what brings the Kedusha of Shabbos. And what the Be'er Yosef is trying to give over is that on Shabbos, if we come together, we could go and continue to appreciate the Kedusha that was brought upon Moshe Rabbeinu and the Jewish people at the time. So hopefully, idea number one, we'll continue to come together to learn Torah on Shabbos, and we could extend that, past the afternoon shir that Rav Shalom Rosner says that we learned from this halakha of Vayakhel Moshe, that we could go and we could come together on Shabbos day when Rabbi Morgenstern and Rabbi Klinger are giving the drasha. We could come together after the Yeshkama shir, when there are 2 shirim that are given to be able to learn Torah. We could come together in so many different opportunities, whether that's at our lunch tables or our dinner tables, to be able to continue to learn Torah and bring Kedusha to Shabbos. That's idea number one. Idea number two. Idea number two is the idea that right now, in these Parshat, what are we learning? We're learning about the Mishkan. We're learning about the Mishkan and everything that goes into it, all the different pieces, all the different avodas, all the different work that we have to do, and all the work that the Kohanim have to do, and the Leviim, and so on. And there's actually a little bit of a connection to the avos inside the Mishkan. The Derech Chaim, the Maharal's commentary on Pirkei Avos, says that the 3 big strengths that our avos had, that are going to be seen in the Mishkan, is Torah, Avoda, and Gemilas Chasadim. The second Mishnah in the first parak. It talks about the 3 things that the world stands on: Torah, Avoda, and Gemilas Chasadim. So how you translate Torah, you could go and open up Rabbi Uwe Terry's sefer called Essentials of Judaism, about how to be able to understand what Torah means, what it means to be by Avoda, what does it mean by Gemilas Chasadim. There's different ways of being able to read into it. The way that the Derech Chaim goes in and says it is that Torah is about learning Torah, Avoda is about having Mesiras Nefesh, sacrificing something of yourself for a bigger cause, and the Gemilas Chasadim is the act of chesed, as it's translated, to be able to go out of your way for other people. And each of these different traits, each of these different character traits and these strengths, relates to a different strength of a different forefather, of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Torah is related to Yaakov. Because what did Yaakov do? For 14 years, where did he learn? By Shem Ve'ever. He learned for 14 years at Shem Ve'ever. And in those 14 years, he was giving it everything he can in order to be able to understand the emes, to be able to understand the truth behind his life and what he is trying to do. And there's a sefer Emes LaYaakov, written by Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, that says what was the reason why he needed to go specifically to Shem Ve'ever. He was learning under his father Yitzchak this whole time. Why does he have to go to Shem Ve'ever if he was learning, if anything, from the greatest source of Torah? It would be Yitzchak at the time, no? So Emes LaYaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, writes that he needed to be able to understand the Torah of Galus, because where was he going in those future moments? He was going to Lava. He was going to be in a place where he was going to be tricked. He was going to be, in many ways, he was going to be suffering, and he had to be able to understand a Torah in a different lens, in a different way, to be able to appreciate the situations that he is in. So Yaakov represents the Torah. That is his strength. He continues to learn and learn and learn to no end. Yitzchak represents avoda, Mesiras Nefesh, sacrifice. Because as much as we concentrate on Abraham in the situation of Akedas Yitzchak, who clearly complied with every single moment of Akedas Yitzchak, of almost being sacrificed, Yitzchak himself, he didn't budge, he didn't move, he didn't run away. He went with all the motions, he went with all the situations in order to be sacrificed for a larger cause, being Hashem's commandments. And because of that, Yitzchak is considered part of the strength of avoda. He's willing to give up so much in order to be able to fulfill the words of Hashem. Abraham represents Gemilas Chasadim, because 3 days after having the bris milah, which is known, I wouldn't know because I had it at 8 days old, but it's supposedly the most difficult day, the day that it hurts the most after having a bris milah is 3 days afterwards. And what happens? He's talking to Hashem. Hashem is being mevaker kolim, and he sees three people walking by. Didn't know that was malachim, and he goes and tries to bring them into his tent and have them join him in his tent, and to be able to appreciate the love and care that he could provide him. So what do we have? We have Torah represented by Yaakov. That's his strength. Avoda is Yitzchak's strength. Gemilas Chasadim is Abraham's strength. Rav Noach Weinberg says that each of these are represented in the Mishkan, each of their strengths. What are each of their strengths? So Yaakov again is Torah. How is that represented in the Mishkan? It's represented by the Aron that holds the Lukos. The Lukos representing the original way of understanding the Torah, the first way that we connected to the Torah is written on these Lukos, on these stones, and they are found in the Aron, representing the strength that Yaakov had of learning Torah. Yitzchak is seen, the strength of Avoda is seen on the Mizbeach. That just like Yitzchak was willing to sacrifice himself on a Mizbeach, now the Jewish people continue to sacrifice, whether that's animals, whatever it might be, to be able to continue that idea that we're willing to sacrifice something that's whole, something that's just normal, something that's part of our life, for a bigger cause, for Hashem, to be able to connect back to the Rabbon Shalom, the creator of the world. And then, Gemilas Chasadim is Avram Avinu. Where do we see his strength? By the Lechem Apanim. The Lechem Apanim. Where in the world does that have a connection with Gemilas Chasadim? So we see in the Gemara in Menachos that what would happen when the Jewish people would come for the Shalosh Regalim, when they would come for the high holidays and so on, to be able to celebrate in the Mishkan, at the time the Beis Hamikdash. What would the Kohanim do to be able to give them a little bit of the Torah? Nowadays, what do we have? We have the tunnel tours. Back then, they had the full tour of the Beis Hamikdash. What would the Kohanim do? They would bring out the Lechem Apanim, the showbread. They would bring it out, and they would say, "Re'u chavitchem lifnei hamakom." Look at what Hashem provides us. Look at the affection that Hashem has for us. Look at all the parnasa, all the happiness that Hashem gives us. This represents that. This represents all the incredible, all the good that Hashem has given us. And what would Avram Avinu do? When he brings people into his home, when he does Knasas Orchim, when he has so many people coming by, enjoying his food, enjoying his company, what would he say? Look at how incredible Hashem is. Look how amazing and incredible what Hashem could do for you. You got to join us. You got to be a part of our community, because God is incredible. He gives you so much, and you got to appreciate that. So there's that correlation of the Lechem Apanim with Avram Avinu, because with that Gemilas Chasadim, what did he do? He showed the world the affection of Hashem. So why is all this important? Why is it important that the Avos are represented, their strengths are represented in the Mishkan? Why is that so important? It's important for us. It's important for us to know that our strengths, the place that was central to our life in the Mishkan being the central part of our life, can have all of our strengths. Whether that is that you're stronger in learning Torah, whether that is that you're stronger in tefillah, whether that is that you're stronger in Gemilas Chasadim or Israel advocacy, whatever it might be, your strength can be found in a central location, the Torah, and how we live our life. And yes, we should of course be trying to fulfill the 613 commandments. That's important. That's something that we have to be able to accomplish. But in order for us to feel a connection with Hashem, we got to play on our strengths. We got to do what we are best at as our number one way of fulfilling our connection to Hashem. Avram Avinu understood that. Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, they all understood that. They played on their strengths. We have to know what our strengths are. We have to know where we can grow, where we can be better, where we can be stronger and be able to build that connection with Hashem. In 1 week, next Shabbos, we're bringing in an incredible speaker, or Mark Edinger. And she, if you go on YouTube, look up Living L'Chaim, there's a podcast, a 45-minute podcast with her. She is incredible. She is incredible. She has gone through probably some of the most crazy tragedies that you can imagine. Her father was killed in a terrorist attack. Her father was killed in a terrorist attack by somebody who was released from the Gilad Shalit, the torturing. On top of that, her older brother was killed in a car accident. And then on top of that, her cousin, who she was extremely close to, was killed on October 7th while saving hundreds of people at a kibbutz. And then on top of that, her younger brother was killed at war in Gaza. How do you get through this? How are you able to even stand? I don't know. I would never be able to handle that. I do not have the emunah muscles at this point to be able to handle those situations. But Ori, she always has a smile on her face. She always stays positive. And she says that because she's always been a positive person, she always had that strength, she uses that to build on her own level of spirituality, which is her emunah. Her emunah in Hashem, that everything will be okay, everything's happening for the right reasons. And she's able to now go and help hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people through their difficult moments, through her own positivity, her own emunah, and her own difficulties that have come up in her life. We're going to hear all about that next week, and specifically about emunah by Rabbi Morgenstern's home. She's going to be giving a shiur about how to be able to feel that emunah, to feel that connection with Hashem, even in the most difficult times, even when everything feels like it's falling apart. How are we able to go through that? I have another friend, though, on a more positive note, who always had a dream, who always had a strength of music. He always wanted to go into the music world. Thing is, in the Jewish world, you're not necessarily going to want to work for Kendrick Lamar and all these other type of rappers and Taylor Swift and so on and so forth. And he always wanted to be able to be somewhere in the music producing world. At the time, 10 years ago, there was not all this pop Jewish music, but he was one of those people that actually helped move the pendulum of Jewish music to become a little more pop-like, to be able to bring that kedusha of Jewish music, of this pop music into the Jewish world. He helped Mordechai Shapiro write a few songs. He's right now working for a company called Thank You Hashem. As many people know, their most famous song, Thank You Hashem. That's probably one of their more famous ones.
What's his name?
Yehuda Pinsker. And he took his strength of being of producing music, and he used it for kedusha. Something that many of us wouldn't have looked at as an opportunity to build a kedusha on. And yet, there is an opportunity to be able to do so. So each of us have something that we have a strong suit in. Each of us have something that we could utilize to be able to build that kedusha. And the question is, how are we going to do it? We know our strengths. We know where we could be able to build that up. And the question is, how are we going to relate that strength back to Hashem? That is idea number 2. Our central location is the Mishkan. Our strengths can be found in the Mishkan. Our strengths can be found in the Torah. How do we build up utilizing our strengths to the Torah? How do we connect it back to the Torah? The last idea, third idea, is a quick idea. We say Vayakhel Kalisha Shirnas Olibo, that everybody who wanted to be a part of the building of the Mishkan, wanted to be a part of this growth, they either had some type of purpose, some ability, or they had this spirit, this strength, this passion to be able to help out. And they would bring the truma, and they would do their work. And they would do it in the Big Day HaKodesh, and so on and so forth. The Ramban has a question: how did anybody know what they were doing? The Mishkan was just built. There was no instruction manual. How in the world did they understand what to do and how to accomplish their avodah? If there was no way for them to have known beforehand, how were they able to accomplish all the amazing things that they were doing in the Mishkan? What?
No, Bezalel Bechuri was the person who's giving the insight from Hashem to build it up.
You're saying that it says
Bezalel Bechuri and
Betzalel.
Betzalel, yeah? Yeah, so Betzalel knew.
He was given the Ruach HaKodesh.
Right. Oh, so it is because of the Ruach HaKodesh. But on top of that, to be able to bring it down to earth for us, it was a passion. There was a passion involved in this. There was a passion, says the Ramban, that when someone would go and do their avodah, whenever they would go and try to connect to Hashem, there was this passion that they had to be able to accomplish that. And with that, they were able to do the things that they didn't even know they had to do. They didn't even know that they had to connect into their avodah. It was a Ruach HaKodesh, like Shlomo said, that was necessary, but their passion had to come first. And we see our Jewish nation all the time. Our Jewish nation all the time is having incredible passion, whether that's for advocacy for Israel, or whether that is for our shul as we expand, with Hashem's help, our shul, so we can have more rooms, more programming, and more incredible opportunities for every single person. And we see across the world, across the Jewish nation, on all four corners, we see our people having so much passion, and sometimes it makes no sense how they're able to accomplish the things that they're doing, and yet they're able to do it. Eli Beer, the creator of Yichud Hatzalah in Israel, if you read his book, he was a little boy, 16 years old, not so little honestly, but a teen, 16 years old, and he was working in Magen David Adom, and he was taking very, very scrupulous notes. You know, how long does it take for an ambulance to get to this place, to get to that place? How are we, how long is it going to take? Taking on average 18, 19, 20 minutes. By the time you get there, if it was an actual serious situation, you couldn't save the person. He goes over to the head of Magen David Adom, and he says, we got to get there in 90 seconds in order to be able to save any person. The head of Magen David Adom at the time laughs in his face. Who do you think you are, trying to get to a place in 90 seconds? The traffic is crazy. It's Yerushalayim. We have bulky ambulances. It's not possible. And the truth is, Eli was looking at the situation. It wasn't possible. How are you going to be able to do this? How are you going to be able to get to a place in 90 seconds? And it was his passion. It was his passion that allowed him to be able to get through all the different situations by buying the walkie-talkies, by gathering all of his friends to be able to have all the different backpacks with all the different material, and then slowly but surely growing and growing and growing to the point where what did he want to accomplish? He always said just like Adolf Hitler killed 6 million of us. What did he want to do? He wanted to save 6 million of us. If you look on their website, they've saved over 6 million people at this point. They have been able to respond to 6 million calls. And that is all due to his passion. He had no idea how he was going to be able to accomplish it. But at the end of the day, passion carries us. And once we are able to use that for